guys, in today's video I'll share some tips and tricks that are very important if you want to go pro. It's something I've learned along the way, and I think if you have big ambitions you should follow along. The first tip is to identify your strengths and weaknesses. If you don't know what your strengths and what your weaknesses, maybe ask your coach, or if you have video recordings of your games and trainings available, take a look at that and analyze and see what part of the game that you need to improve on and what parts of your game that you are really good at, so you can utilize that in the best way. For example, maybe your passes are really good. It could be your long passes, it could be small combination passes. Maybe you are really fast or you have great vision. Maybe you're a good leader on the pitch and you're good at communicating to your teammates. Could also be you're great at dribbling or like 1v1. But it's important for you to know what your strengths are, so you make sure you actually do those things as often as possible in games or in training. So people, scouts, coaches will notice you and know how to play you in games. Of course, ideally you would want to be great in every aspect of the game, but if you're being realistic, you only have a fixed or a limited amount of time and effort you can put in to develop specific skills or actions in the game. And you have to remember, if you want to get noticed, scouts or coaches will look at what sets you apart or makes you stand out from other players. So make sure you have and prioritize having a good base level at most aspects of your game, but you need to have those 2, maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe you're really great things that make you stand out and that people remember you from. Another really important tip that took me years to actually understand how important it is to don't take feedback personal. You really have to try and detach yourself from the feedback you're getting. So you see the feedback or the criticism as something that will actually help improve your game and not something that is said to be mean or to make you feel bad. If you can manage to separate you as a person and your skills or how good you are at football, you will see much faster results because you can actually take the feedback you're getting and implement it without feeling hurt, but only seeing it as something that can make you better. An example of this from my own career is I used to take feedback really personal from my coaches, and it would actually make me quite upset, and I would feel like I was a bad player even if they just tried to correct a little thing or help me improve in that. It could be my first touch. I remember a coach when I was like 12 said, don't take your first touch with your outside all the time. You have more control when you use the inside of your sole. And I took that so personal and I felt like he was trying to decide how I should play, that I didn't see behind the actual words and saw his intention was only to make sure in some situation I used the inside because I have more control, and of course I still had the freedom to use my outside when I wanted to. So one way to start loving getting feedback is to actually go out and seek it. The easiest thing is maybe asking your coach if he has any thing he would like for you to improve. The good thing about this is also that you never see the full picture or see your mistakes, so bringing someone else's perspective into it can actually improve your game a lot. The third tip is something I personally had to learn the hard way, because I used to always compare myself to my competitors and the people I was fighting for a spot in the starting 11 with. I thought that it made me able to see what the coaches wanted to see on the pitch and what they wanted from me, but in reality what a coach sees in another player and what a coach sees in you is not the same and doesn't have to be. So every time I tried to be more like the other person, I actually became worse because I stopped doing what was my strengths and what I was good at and what would be the reasons that the coach would pick me to start. Sometimes comparing is good if you're looking at specific things in your game that you can improve, or you can look at big stars or your role models and try to steal some things or some aspects of their game to make yourself better. But as a whole player, and if you want to make sure you utilize all your own potential, don't compare yourself to your competitors, but find out what makes you stand out and max out on that. The next tip is to know your purpose. This is something that's really important to give you motivation on the days that are hard, where it's hard to get out of bed for morning practice, or you really don't want to go out into the rain and train, or you don't want to do your running program in the off season. You need to know why you have to do the hard things, especially when you don't want to do it if you want to go pro. For me personally, I used to be very motivated by external factors. For example, I wanted people to look at me and think, wow, she's a great player, or I just in general wanted prestige or status from being a good player. But I realized at a certain point that doesn't really motivate me when things aren't going my way and I'm not successful at the moment. So that made me realize that for me to be able to do this in the long run and make a career out of this, I need to enjoy the process and not only the outcome. That means for me to just enjoy football because it's an amazing game and I have fun. And it also means for me as a woman to help give other girls a platform or someone they can look up to, so that they know they can do things in the future that hasn't been done before. The last and final tip is probably the simplest, but also the hardest tip to follow, and it is just to take good care of your body. This means getting the right amount of sleep, recovering well, and making sure you eat what your body needs to be fully energized for games and training. I used to think that I could go by 4 to 6 hours of sleep and eat whatever I want, but that might also be possible when you're a teenager and you don't really feel the consequences, but I promise you they will sneak up to you, and when you start to get older you can definitely feel it in your body. Therefore, you will do yourself a big favor in the future if you start now by creating these good habits of getting enough sleep and eating well. One of the ways I like to take care of my body is to use a foam roller like this. I like to do it a couple times a week before training, so to get the blood flowing and do some mobility work after. How I use it, it's pretty simple. We can start with like the calves, and it's just that you apply pressure on the calves like this. Maybe do it for 30 seconds to a minute on each calf and on each body part that you don't move on to. You can also do hamstrings like this, and it's kind of like giving yourself a little massage. I like to foam roll because I feel like it relaxes my muscles and it helped me feel recovered and prepared for the training or the games ahead. That's all the tips I had for today. Thank you for watching, and remember that results don't happen overnight, so keep working and keep putting in a consistent effort, then I'm sure you will see improvements with time. So I'll see you in the next video.